Hello, and welcome to Real Estate Exam Prep with Stu. I'm your host, Stu, and what we're going to be talking about is some simple concepts to help you pass your real estate exam. Today's concept that we're going to be covering is joint tenancy. But before we get into some of those simple concepts and how we're going to help you remember it and also apply it to some of the questions that you might see on your exam, I have a couple things that I want to tell you about. First, I want you to go to stujacobson.com. Stu spelled S-T-U, Jacobson, Jacobson.com. You can sign up for our pop quizzes. It's going to be right there on the page, and you could sign up, and we'll send you random test questions for free. All we want you to do is sign up, and also you could sign up for our group coaching program so that when you're a new agent and you're not sure what to do, we're going to be able to help you out weekly with tips, tricks, and everything you need to know to get you started in the real estate business. So once again, head over to stujacobson.com, S-T-U, Jacobson, spelled Jacobson.com. Now, joint tenancy. Let's talk about what it is and what you need to know. So joint tenancy is a way that two or more individuals can take title to real property. So we want to do a couple things when we're learning about joint tenancy. The first is you want to separate that from freehold estates, less than freehold estates, and also the types of deeds it will have, because this doesn't have to do with them. This has to do simply with how people can take title to a property. So my recommendation when you're learning each one of these is to not compare them to one another. Really learn this concept by itself so that you understand it, so that when they do ask you a question about this on the real estate exam, you could understand what joint tenancy is. So again, this is a way that two or more individuals. Now keep this in mind, I just said individuals. Companies cannot take title as joint tenants. And I also said two or more. A lot of people get tripped up because they automatically think joint tenancy is two people. They use that as the example. They use something like married couples as an example as the people that would typically get take title to a property as joint tenants. Now, I'm going to tell you some of the benefits of joint tenancy, why someone would want to get joint tenancy, so that benefit there, what is the key to it? Why do people get into this? And some questions that you might see on the exam. So now joint tenancy, the biggest benefit is the right of survivorship. And now I'm going to tell you what it is, and I'm going to tell you where a lot of people get tripped up. So the right of survivorship is only for joint tenancy and in states that recognize it, tenancy by the entirety. Now, when we're talking about right of survivorship, what that means is that basically the joint tenants, people owning the property that are taking title to the property, cannot will the property or devise it. That's another key word that you might hear a lot when we're talking about right of survivorship. Devise, spelled D-E-V-I-S-E. So it kind of looks like device, but it's devise, is to will real property. So when you take title as joint tenants, you're actually giving up your right to devise the property or will real property. So a lot of people get confused that right of survivorship, they think that's actually your right to will it. What I want you to do is this. I want you to take a second and think about all of the things in your house that you own. You'll see, if you're watching this on video on my YouTube channel, it's Stu Jacobson. You just search Stu Jacobson, S-T-U-J-A-C-O-B-S-O-N on YouTube, and you'll see actually the video here. I have all my guitars back there, some expensive ones. And if, let's say, my wife and son don't play guitar, and I wanted to give these to someone who really wanted to enjoy them and appreciate them, maybe I want to leave them to my friend Steve, because I know he's going to really appreciate some of the guitars I have up here on the wall. And if I want to do that, I could just will it to him. We don't call that the right of survivorship. When you own something, inherently, it comes with the right to be able to will it, to transfer it, to sell it, to basically do anything that you please with it that is legal. I can't beat someone or bludgeon someone to death with my guitars. That's illegal, but I could transfer it, sell it, will it, do anything that I want because I own it. So when you own real property, also that comes with the right to be able to will it, the right to devise the real property, right? Now, when we're talking about the right of survivorship, going back to that and joint tenancy, what happens is this. We call it the right of survivorship because the surviving owners have the right to that property when one of the joint tenants passes away. So if a joint tenant passes away, the surviving owners, and I say owners because, again, keep in mind, it is 2 or more. So don't just automatically go to that it's 2 people. It could be 3, it could be 7 people that own it as joint tenants. So I want you to make sure that you're not getting confused there and automatically defaulting to 2 people, okay? It's 2 or more. So basically, the right of survivorship is the right that is held by the surviving owners when one of the joint tenants passes away. They have the right to basically dissolve that interest into the remaining owners. Now, another thing that is unique about joint tenancy requires the 4 unities: the unity of time, title, interest, and possession. And when I say unity, that means that it has to be at the same time. So the unity of title means on the same title. Unity of time means at the same time. Unity of interest means that all interest has to be unified, has to be the same across the board. And the unity of possession, you're coming into possession of the property at the same time. So you have to meet all of those to be able to consider taking property as joint tenants. If you don't meet any or all of them, then it's a situation where you can't take title as joint tenants. The only option you would have is to be tenants in common. So let me give you a scenario, an example of when you might not meet the unity of time, title, interest, and possession. And I love this example because it's a real life one. My wife and I, we met later on in life. And I say later on, we were in our late 20s and we were already established professionals. So we owned real property. She had a 600 square foot beach house. I loved the beach house. And one of the things we were considering was me coming in as an owner on the beach house and maybe sprucing it up, doing a couple things to it, and I put a little money towards what she owed left on it, and we would have lived in the beach house. I will tell you this, she told me that 600 square foot beach house she would kill me in if we had to live together with 2 dogs and 2 cats at the time. So that wasn't an option. However, she owned it by herself. So she owned it as a tenancy in severalty, meaning she owned it just her. Now, if I wanted to be joint tenants with her and enjoy the right of survivorship, meaning that if one of us were to pass away, the other one would automatically get the ownership, it's a situation where we wouldn't be able to do it because we don't meet the unity of time, title, interest, and possession. We could have met the unity of interest, meaning that we could have had the same shares of interest. We could have met the unity of possession, meaning that we're coming into it at the same time, right? You know, we're both possessing it at the same time. But the unity of title, she already took title to the property as tenancy and severalty, right? One owner. So we would be on separate titles. And the unity of time, we didn't do it at the same time. So we don't have that option. So tenants in common would have been an option for us. But again, we didn't do that. Now, again, going back to the benefit of joint tenancy and why people do this, some people refer to this as a poor man's will because it's a situation where you might not have a will, or these people that you're taking title to the property with might not be included in your will for whatever reason. I don't know. And you might want to make sure that these people do get that interest if something were to, God forbid, happen. So that's one of the reasons why people go into joint tenancy. Now, something else that I want to talk about, because this is something that you will get scenario-based questions on, is they'll create a scenario where some people will be joint tenants, like owner A, owner B, and owner C as joint tenants, and then one of them will either die or will sell their interest. So what you have to understand is what happens when that occurs. So I'm going to give you a scenario. And to keep it simple, I'm going to refer to all the owners as A, B, C, and then a third party as D. So A, B, and C own the property as joint tenants. Now, I want you to stop right there. If you need to pause and just kind of take that in and understand what that is, this might be a good time to do that. Just hit that pause button. But A, B, and C are joint tenants. So it means they've met the requirements of joint tenancy, the unity of time, title, interest, and possession. Now, let's take owner B and say he wants to transfer his interest, give his interest to his friend D. Okay, now, again, I want you to pause this. Take a second to understand what just happened. B transferred their interest to D. I was like, here, you know what? I don't want to be an owner in this anymore with A, B, and C. We were joint tenants, and now I want to bring you into the fold, and I want to exit stage left. Why? Not clear, not known, and not relevant. So what I want you to do also is not necessarily ask why in certain scenarios. So just take the scenario in and understand what you know. So, first of all, let's ask this question. Can B sell his interest to D? Sure, absolutely. The only thing that a joint tenant cannot do is that a joint tenant cannot will their interest. But can they sell it or transfer it? Sure, absolutely. So B transferring it to D is absolutely allowed. Now, A and C were both original owners, and they're still original owners. Are they tenants in common or are they joint tenants? Think about that for a second. Are they still joint tenants or has something changed or, So the answer to that is A and C are still joint tenants. Nothing's happened to their relationship in the property and their ownership. So I want you to keep that in mind. But as D came in, D cannot be a joint tenant with A or C. So it's a situation where he is now a tenant in common with A and a tenant in common with C. So now this brings up an interesting situation. Stu, can there be different types of ways that people have taken title to a property in one real property? The answer, clearly illustrated in this example, is yes. So joint tenancy can occur in the same property as you have tenants in common. So now, let me ask you another question to see if you're getting what happens with joint tenancy and what some of the rules are so that it could help you solve future scenario-based questions. So let's say now you have A and C remaining joint tenants, and D is now a tenant in common with both of those. What happens if A passes away? Pause it for a second and think about that. So A and C are still joint tenants, but A is a tenant in common with D. So what happens if he passes away? Well, they're a joint tenant with C. So C would now take their interest, A's interest in the property, and what happens is D would now be a tenant in common with C, but C would actually own 2/3 of the property, while D only owned 1/3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge you to maybe rewind that last little bit that we went through the scenario and pause it and see where you're not getting it. See what you're struggling with in that example, because that's something that I will tell you a lot of students struggle with, and they don't realize about joint tenancy is that you can have joint tenancy in a real property ownership side by side with tenancy in common. And keep in mind, if it went down to the fact that, let's say, there were just two owners, like in the example that I gave you with my wife. Now, my wife and I, we do own our current home as joint tenants because at the time we bought it. So we bought a new home that was bigger than 600 square feet. And it's just the two of us on title. And if one of us were to pass away, because there are two people and we have the right of survivorship, the other one would own it in severalty. So if there's two owners and the last man is standing, hopefully it'll be me, but let's not go kill my wife just yet. But for the example, yeah, why not? It's a situation where, I would own it as tenancy and severalty. But I hope that this helped you out. And if this did, remember, please do head over to stujacobson.com, sign up for our pop quizzes because they are super helpful. You'll just get a question in your inbox once, twice, maybe 5 times a week, and we're going to try to help you pass your exams. So again, if you are watching on YouTube or whatever podcast service you like, please remember to subscribe, hit like. It really does help me out in making these videos. Have a great one, and I will see you real soon.